This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, saving your day from boredom with the best podcasting entertainment.
What's up, real MVPs, Ricky Widmer here, along with fellow Manchild, Johnny Karlic.
Get behind me, I'll be your shield.
Oh, I feel like I know why you did that one. But we have a jam-packed podcast for you guys today. First off, we're doing this a little bit differently as it's not Sunday morning. Like, I'm looking out here and it's nighttime.
And it's also foggy.
It's also foggy.
I mean, that's just the window. That's
as we record this, as we are doing Friday night instead of Sunday night. If you're new to the Rick and Johnny podcast, this is where, did I say our names? Yes, I did. Ricky Widmer, fellow Manchild, Johnny Karlic. It's weird doing this on a Friday, not a Sunday. But if you're new to the podcast, we talk about everything under the two nerdy suns, video games, comics, superheroes, everything underneath those two nerdy suns. And Johnny, we got a jam-packed one today. Really a one-topic podcast where usually I tell you the three things we're going to be talking about. Well, today we got one. Before I get into it, I'm just going to pitch it out there very briefly. Patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast. If you want to help support the podcast, go down below and click the link. Help support us. Make sure we can keep doing what we like to do for you each and every week. But Johnny, the topic of today's podcast is everything that's been going on in the world of Blizzard, because there is a lot to crack down. It started early this week. Then, like, the next day, I think it was, let me see. It started on Tuesday. Yeah, it started on Tuesday. Then Wednesday, there was more that came out. And then yesterday, Thursday, there was even more that came out. So before we get into everything, let me unpack a little bit of what's been going on. So first off, the whole thing of what this is revolved around is right now, protests in Hong Kong started in early June. Basically, there was a controversial proposed law that was suspended. Chinese government wasn't happy about it. There were protests from demonstrators. There were just protests from Hong Kong civilians that are basically the whole thing about the protests are it's for human rights, it's for democracy, and their demands for democracy in Hong Kong, because they thought the law would be one where basically China can come in and go, oh, we want him, we're bringing him back to China so that he can face stricter laws in our state rather than your state, kind of a thing. And there was Blizzard had their, I think it was Grand Champions or Grand Tournament for Hearthstone, and one of the contestants, Blitzchung, I'm not even going to try to poorly say his real name, I'm just going to call him Blitzchung, was one of the players in that Hearthstone tournament. And afterwards, they had a post-match interview or post-stream interview, and in it, he wore in every article, they're calling it a gas mask. It's basically the mask that is similar to what the protesters are wearing in Hong Kong. And he said the statement, basically, let's see if I've got it here. It would help if I had it in this article. Basically, he said a line that was support of the Hong Kong. It was, liberate Hong Kong, revolution of our ages. And after that, Blizzard banned him. They took all of his winnings from the tournament. They banned him from the tournament. And then they banned him for a complete year. So he can't play Hearthstone for a complete year. Since this, there has been fallout galore. Number one, there is Boycott Blizzard that went crazy on Twitter. People canceling their WoW subscriptions, canceling Overwatch subscriptions, deleting their Battle.net accounts, like the whole 9 yards, saying, fuck this company. If you're going to, you're not for human rights, I'm getting the hell out of here. Then on top of it, Johnny, we got employees of Blizzard that walked out of work. I think this was Thursday. This happened after the Boycott Blizzard. And the thing that hit me with the walkout was there's a statue on the Blizzard campus that has a ring on the outside with some important sayings that are supposed to be this is what the company believes in. And 2 of them, Think Globally and Every Voice Matters, the employees put paper over it and taped the paper over those sayings, basically to make the statement of, obviously, you do not believe in this. And there has been huge backlash from fans, from ex-Blizzard employees, from current Blizzard employees, even a couple senators, one of them being Marco Rubio from Florida, have spoken out about this. Before we get in, because I've got 2 big questions that I want to get to when it comes to this. I want to just ask you first off, we briefed each other about it before the podcast. I very briefly, if you want more of it, I'll include the CNET article that both you and I are viewing that describes and descripts everything fairly well. I'll put that below in the description so you guys can follow along and get more information on everything that's going on. I want to ask you to start. What's your first just reactions to all of this that's going on with Blizzard and the Hong Kong and the, basically, I'm going to call it the Blizzard-China controversy?
I'll just start with, it's kind of sucks what's happening over in China and Hong Kong in the first place. It's, I don't want to necessarily use the word travesty, but it's pretty close to that. I would say that Hong Kong wants, not the fact that
They just want, it's for human rights.
They want human rights.
Yeah.
And China's not giving them, and that's the travesty, that China's not letting them have their own human rights.
Yeah.
As for the whole Blizzard involvement debacle, I don't know Blizzard's reasoning for banning him and taking away his winnings, whether it's they have something in their rules that don't put your protests out on our Blizzard stuff, or maybe it's something along the lines of maybe it's what people are not protesting Blizzard, no, boycotting Blizzard.
Boycotting Blizzard.
I couldn't think of the word for a minute.
Do you want to know what it is?
Yeah, you found it?
No, I know what it is. Blizzard makes most of its money from China. That's it. And like, to me, the reason why, like, I know Blizzard came out and said, well, because I'm glad you brought that up, because that was one thing that I probably should have said.
I mean,
was the statement that Blizzard made to the U.S. was very different than the one they made to basically China, where the one they made to us was, while we stand by one's rights to express individual thoughts and opinions, players and other participants that elect to participate in our esports competitions must abide by the official competition rules. But then there was a statement that they made to China, or they made on Chinese social media, Weibo, and multiple translations have been put out by this. I'm going to read the IGN translation. And it says, "We express our strong indignation or resentment and condemnation of the events that occurred in the Hearthstone Asia Pacific competition last weekend, and absolutely depose the dissemination of personal political ideas during any event or games. The players involved will be banned, and the commentators involved will be immediately terminated from any official business. Also, we will protect or safeguard our national dignity or honor." So right away, 2 vastly different tones. Also, I forgot to mention that the commentators, the guys that were interviewing him, got fired. And basically, from what I've heard, when you watch it, all they did during it was put their head down. Like, kind of to say, I am not saying this, like, this is not on me. Because they didn't know what he was going to do. They didn't know it. But they got fired anyways as well by Blizzard.
That is actually horrible on Blizzard's part for firing them, because that, if you can tell, that's not on them.
No, it's not.
Whatever
they didn't make the comments.
The interviewee, right? The interviewee
says
whatever the interviewee says is not on the commentators. It's not on the interviewers. They have nothing to do with what he said. Unless
the interviewer baits them into it, but they obviously did.
Exactly. They didn't, like you said, they didn't bait them into it. But, I mean, all in all, whatever the interviewee says is on the interviewee. So that part is I agree with Blizzard on their actions taken on this. No, do I understand it? To some extent, they are a business still. And when it comes to push and shove, the business side, I understand that. They do have to keep relations with China. Are they going too far with that? Yeah, I agree. I'm basically saying I don't agree with them, but I understand where they're coming from to some extent.
Well, because the thing is, and the reason why they make most of their money from China is basically they have a big player base in China, but also things like one of the podcasts I was listening to, they looked up the box office for the World of Warcraft movie, even something like that. That movie did a lot better over in China than it did over here. Like a big chunk of their money is being made in China. And the business side of me goes, I understand it.
Exactly.
Do I agree with it?
No.
Hell no. And the thing that one of the things I want to throw out to you, and actually I'll save it because I've got two questions that I want to wrap around this entire discussion. And I feel like what I was just going to say falls into the second one that I was going to ask you and not the first one. And the first question I want to lead this discussion is basically this. After everything that has happened with Blizzard, how do they bounce back? Either how do they bounce back? Can they bounce back? Will this just be a thing that we forget about in a month when BlizzCon begins? Because the big kind of thing that Blizzard they've got to be thinking about is with this boycott Blizzard, with everything that's going on. November 1st starts BlizzCon. End of the month, we've got BlizzCon starts. And how is that going to hurt their sales of anything? Because you've got people deleting Battle.net accounts. And I know you and I talked before the podcast, you compared it to, like, for example, on a dating app, even the Kaepernick one. But
Nike
like,
thing.
For example, on a dating app, if I go ahead and buy the premium and then cancel, I still have it for the entire month.
They still have my money for that month.
They took it, or I paid them for it, and they get the money.
They just go in your account and take it.
So, like with WoW, if I cancel that subscription, they still have my money for the month. The point is, I'm not
month, the 3 months, the 6 months, whatever
you did. But after that, they're not getting any more money from me, and that's the point of the people boycotting.
And I understand that. I'm just wanted to make it a point that they kind of still have your money. So if you just quit then and there, it's still on paper showing they have your money. You paid for it.
But the thing is, let's say they have a big announcement at BlizzCon.
Yeah.
How does this affect the numbers of that? Like, if they release, let's say, Overwatch 2, they announced that.
That's another thing, actually.
How is that going to be affected? 2. Yeah, how is that going to be affected?
Laughing because it's usually filled with DLC, basically.
Overwatch 2. It's going to have a story mode, apparently.
That's awesome.
But how is that, the sales of that game, even the hype from that game, going to be affected by this? Can they bounce back? Can BlizzCon help them bounce back? What are your thoughts on them bouncing back?
BlizzCon itself is going to be affected.
Yeah.
Honestly,
do you think the hype level gets hurt with BlizzCon, where people are not as hyped about it because fuck BlizzCon, I'm not even going to pay attention to it because fuck them?
Yeah, except the people that
don't care.
Already paid for the ticket.
Yeah, that too.
You paid for the ticket, and then this happens. Like, I'm not going to watch BlizzCon. I'm not going to go to BlizzCon. You just lost that money, though,
I wonder,
man.
if you're a BlizzCon ticket holder, do you sell... And this is if you're in the Blizzard boycott.
Do you sell the ticket?
Do you sell the ticket, or do you still go?
That would be the question.
If you can't sell the ticket, do you go or not go? Do you go and use the money, or do you take your stand and say, I'm not going to go, and basically you're just giving them your money not to go?
Yeah, I mean, at that point, you may as well go there and protest, even though you'll probably get kicked out.
Yeah.
I mean, at least I guess you made a point. If you're going to do anything, you may as well go in and do that.
I mean,
there's a virtual.
You could wear like a Hong Kong shirt.
Yeah.
They can't throw you out for that,
That's
right?
true.
I would
You're right.
think they can't, but apparently they can make rules whenever they want.
Yeah, that's very true.
They can just say you're in violation of terms and whatever. They throw you out.
Yeah, they could. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So who knows? But I mean, at least at that point you tried. But
very Chinese government of them. See what I did there?
Chinese democracy.
But yeah, I don't know how Blizzard bounces back from this.
I don't either, other than wait for it to blow over.
But is it do you think it blows over?
Over time, yeah, or whenever this whole Hong Kong China thing is over.
Because you say this whole Hong Kong thing in China is over. It started in June and it's still going on.
I'm just saying, at some point it's gonna end.
Yeah,
one way or another, it's gonna end at some point. I don't know how long down the road. Could be 2 years. It could be next month. But that's when. Well, I mean, it's at some point, even in that 2 months to a year, as long as Blizzard lays low, doesn't cause any waves on anything, doesn't make any interactions for or against China, for or against Hong Kong, then yeah, it blows over. People might start going like, you know what, I miss World of Warcraft. I'm gonna play. I miss playing WoW. I'm gonna play it. And at that point, it's like, you know what? Some people will cool down from it. Some people won't. Some people will cool down and realize, you know what? I gave this up. Really, the China Hong Kong thing doesn't affect me. It's horrible. Yes, I'll find another way to protest.
Yeah, and that's
because canceling your Blizzard account, canceling your BattleNet, everything doesn't fix the problem over there anyways.
Well,
it just shows that I'm mad at Blizzard for their reaction to it.
Well, I mean, the thing I'll say is, yes, it doesn't fix what's going on between Hong Kong and China.
Yeah.
But the only way to speak against the company is with your wallet. And
I agree with that.
And I feel like for the people that have canceled their Blizzard accounts, that's a big step to take, because you're taking the step of a game I love to play. I'm not going to play it anymore because I believe in human rights and I believe in basically human dignity so much that I don't feel like you have the same values as me.
Not that it's saying I don't. It's just I'm looking at it from a half business aspect too.
And that's the thing. And here's the bringing in the business part of it that I feel like, and this is where I wonder how much of a dent the boycott Blizzard will make, is if Blizzard's making most of their money from China and not from us, how much of a dent will the boycott Blizzard or Blizzard boycott, how much will that dent if most of their money is coming from China?
Then not a lot. Depending on the numbers of percentage, I don't know.
Depending on how many people,
I don't know the percentage of U.S. compared to China. If China is like a whopping 60%, not a lot.
Yeah.
To be fair, I'm coming. I'll just say this now for everyone.
Yeah.
I believe in I laugh because I feel like I'm dumb saying this, but
like it's that obvious.
Like it should be that I do believe in the human rights. Like I said, I believe that this is a travesty that's happening to Hong Kong because of China. I don't support what China is doing to Hong Kong, but I'm coming at a lot of this from a business aspect and from a monetary aspect, just kind of to play a devil's advocate of what a lot of people are doing. Because do I agree with what they're doing? Absolutely not. Do I agree with what Blizzard has done to the gamers, to the two that had nothing to do with it and got fired from their job? No, I don't agree with what they're doing. But do I think that it will hit Blizzard really hard if U.S. citizens get out their BattleNet accounts and blah, blah, blah? Maybe a little bit. But let's be fair. Like you stated in the articles and stuff like that, they get most of their money from China.
Yeah, and
they have to keep business-wise. They have to keep that part afloat.
And obviously, I will throw out here. I know we don't have a designated like, hey, if we're wrong, put it in here. But if we're wrong, comment section.
You are more than welcome to put it down there if I missed some details about something.
And I'm not 100% perfect, but the thing I did look up is, so the amount that they seized from Blitzchung is $10,000 they took from him. That was the winnings that they seized from him for making these comments.
Okay, that's a bit much.
And as of November 2016, the Chinese tech giant Tencent had a 4.9, so almost a 5% stake in Blizzard. So, I mean, it's not a ton of stake, but like 5% stake. You've got shareholders in China. That's another thing. You got to make those shareholders happy. You don't make them happy, that could even shake the boat as well. And that's where it brings back to kind of like the greater thing of this first question is I don't know how long this is going to last, because there's a part of me that is very cynical, where it's like, how's everything else that's in our culture been? Where it's like, you get really the general mass gets really riled up, but then after time, it kind of loses steam. Where
it's like a tide.
Exactly, where it's like the ones that are very like, I believe in this and this is what I'm standing for, they will be there. But there's this like general kind of like, it gains like so many people that the casual people just kind of fall off a bit. And like you said, will there be people after time that goes, you know what, this is kind of blown over, I am going to jump back in and play World of Warcraft.
I miss Overwatch. I miss World of Warcraft. I miss Hearthstone or whatever else.
To where I almost feel like Blizzard eventually, once all of this is ended, because like you said, it's going to, hopefully it comes to an end at one point. Like,
well, it will, but hopefully it's a good resolution.
Exactly. Like,
peaceful resolution.
I want it to come to the revolution that, or not revolution, resolution. If I could speak English on this podcast,
English.
I want it to come to the resolution that is in favor of human dignity.
Yeah,
in favor of democracy, because I am all for the free. Like, that's the one thing we even talked about it on the NBA side, because they're going through the same thing. Because one of the GMs in the NBA tweeted out support for Hong Kong, and that made China and their basketball agency mad. And the NBA, similar boat. They've got a huge fan base in the Chinese market that they got to kind of toe this line. And the thing I want to, before I get into the second question, I want to ask you, I want to bring up these comments, because I was listening to the Kind of Funny Games Daily podcast. This one was, what date was it? In case you guys want to go listen to it. Theirs on October 9th. And they had on that podcast, I absolutely love him. His name's Gary Whitta. Just his take on things, and kind of like, he's almost like, in my sense, and I don't know Gary personally, but he almost has this like old man, get off my lawn kind of a vibe that I just fucking dig. And the thing I love from what he said is, first off, his strong take of just like, when are one of these companies, Nike, Blizzard, anybody, finally gonna stand up to someone like China and say like, hey, it's great you believe in that, but you don't dictate how we do business over here in the Western side of the world. Like, it's great, you're over there, you give us money, but you don't dictate how we do business. First off, when's that going to happen? Second off, the thing that he said that really stuck with me is the only reason companies in America gives a crap about what China thinks is because they make most of our plastic, or as you put jokingly in our rundown sheet, the question of
cheap knickknacks.
Why should I quit playing Blizzard for a company that only makes cheap knickknacks?
Country
that plays cheap knickknacks. I say, what did I say?
You said you called it a company.
Yeah. China's kind of like
China Incorporated.
Yeah, China Incorporated. Chim Pokemon. But basically,
that's Japan, wasn't it?
Was it? Yeah.
I think so.
What's a Chinese?
Pokemon.
Yeah, that was Japan. Don't want to mix them up.
That's me. That's rude.
The
man.
Japan government is cool. The Chinese government is not cool. But what
I
he
you
said
were cool,
was,
China.
he said,
I don't know
if it wasn't for them basically making most of our plastic items, and for the whole nuclear side of it as well, them having nuclear weapons, he said, we would almost treat China like South Korea. Like, go fucking play with yourself on your side of the world, in your little corner. We don't care about you. Because, I mean, like, you look at North Korea, I mean, they don't have any big export that we need. It's just kind of like, fuck you. Like, go play with yourself. We don't care about you. If China wasn't giving us a big export and kind of stimulating our economy, we would kind of treat them the same way.
Exactly.
And the only reason that this sucks is because China, basically, the way I want to say it, and I don't know if this is right, so you'll have to correct me. It's kind of like they've got us by the balls, where it's like, oh, you want your economy to survive? Oh, but it's not going to survive without us because you're in debt to us.
Yeah, kind of.
Because don't we? Isn't it true that we have a debt with China?
I think
or
we
something?
have a pretty existential debt with China. So I mean,
that's a story for a different day. But
yeah, that's another podcast. It'd probably be a
like
Patreon podcast.
Yeah, an MVP podcast.
We get everyone in on that one.
It leads me to the second question is, and it's what the podcast name is for our podcast this week is, should gamers worry about Chinese censorship? Like, is this something that down the line is really going to affect how we, because like we don't have to deal with it in sense of like, ooh, there's a skeleton in this game, so they've got to take it out over in China because they can't have skeletons in their games. Where like we live in America, we can have skeletons in our game. A game like Call of Duty can push the lines with a game, and it's perfectly fine to do that. Like, they can have a scene in their game where you play as a terrorist and shoot up an airport. I know that happened. I think that happened before 9/11. That was in Modern Warfare 1, I believe. But still, at the time, you were able to do that.
Yeah.
And not have backlash from the government of like, how dare you do that? Like, it's like video games are creative. It's a creative vision. It's just like making a movie. It's just like writing a book. In my mind, do you think gamers have to worry about Chinese censorship, or should we have faith that the majority of these companies will hold on to principles instead of cashing in? What do you think? It's a loaded question, I know.
I'm trying to think. I'm not.
Because I'm not
rephrase the question for me one more time.
Basically, should we be worried about Chinese censorship, or have faith that a majority of companies will hold onto principles instead of cashing in?
I'd hope, if nothing else, the companies will make the games how they want the games to go. And if a country wants it censored in a certain way, that's when they take out the coding for that part of the game.
And that's usually how it's done.
Yeah. So I mean, if anything, because I would hope it's almost like movies, and I think actually some games might do this. I don't remember. I know movies do this. They'll take chunks out. They'll put their own things in there for certain countries because they can't have it that way in one country. They can't have it that way. Movies definitely do it.
Iron Man 3, the Chinese version is 20 minutes longer than our version because of the scene where he's getting the stuff like taken out.
Yeah.
They added in a scene of like where there's doctors played by famous Chinese actors.
Okay.
And they actually added in that scene to where it added 20 minutes onto the movie. And they do that. Where
that's cool.
Things are changed in different movies.
And that's the thing. From country to country, they'll change things like that. So I'm hoping...
Zootopia changed the...
That I didn't know.
Well, they changed in some countries. You know how they had the two news anchors? Yeah. Well, in some countries, like, for example, Australia, one was a koala. Where, like, they even did that, and they changed it to where
that actually, it goes closer into the gaming because that's that's a lot of computer graphic work. That's a lot of animation work. So, to be fair, then, yeah, that would make sense. So, in a game, honestly, it would be more like, hey, we put the code in, we want this specific thing. Oh, can't have it in this country. Alter the code, at that point, change the skin per se.
Yeah.
Go with what I know as I would say an Overwatch term.
Mm-hmm.
Change the skin. Oh, now it's this. It's not the big a deal anymore.
Let's see. I'm looking it up right now.
If there's other content to go into there, like the gameplay, that's up to the company. I would hope they would, if they're like, they would make a general game that they want out. If a certain country has a problem with it, either adjust it for the country or say, hey, we're putting this out. This is how it is.
So here it is. So according to Twitter user, and then they list the Twitter user. This is an old article, so I won't say the Twitter user. If you're in the United States, Canada, and France, we saw a moose. However, if you're in Japan, you saw a tanuki instead of a moose.
A tanuki.
I don't know. That's what Tanuti or Tanuki. I think it's a bird. I think it's a bird.
Checking it up right now. Go ahead and keep going.
What is it? No, I'm gonna wait. I wanna. Know
Oh,
what
it's
this
sort
is.
of like looks sort of like a raccoon actually.
Is it
Looks like it.
Tanuki?
Japanese raccoon.
Now I gotta look at
There's
it.
a description.
Yeah. Okay. Let's
It's like
a raccoon.
No, actually, one of the descriptions for the first picture on Wikipedia says Japanese raccoon.
Okay.
Dog.
So you get a Japanese raccoon if you're in Japan. If you are in Australia or New Zealand, you get a koala. If you're in China, you get a panda bear.
That's awesome.
In Brazil, it's a jaguar. While UK audiences see a Welsh corgi. So like they even changed just that one news anchor. To where like I thought that was kind of cool that depending on where you lived, that news anchor kind of changed. And like I know games do that, but I think with the question, the way I want to go with it is, should gamers, more importantly here in the States, should we worry that the Chinese censorship is going to basically that Blizzard will not be the last company to have something like this happen?
You know what? That's the sad part is what you see is more companies will bend to their majority than stand up for something.
So you're saying, just with that, you're saying that basically when it comes to companies, yeah, I would love for them to be morally strong and believe in what they say
like
they
stand up
believe
for
in,
what the company says they believe in.
but in the end, they're going to try to they'll go with the money.
A lot of the times, yeah. How often do you actually see a company say, we're not doing this because we don't believe in it, even if it's going to hurt our sales? When's the last time you heard that? Or how often do you hear it?
Honestly, with this, Tencent, that Chinese company, has a stake in Epic Games too. And Epic Games actually came out and said, "No, fuck that," kind of a thing. But how
often do you hear it?
But the thing that's interesting about that someone later came up with is that Epic Games doesn't have the same kind of I don't want to say popularity, but income that Blizzard has from that Chinese market.
They're no, yeah, there you go.
Like Blizzard, it comes down to, and I keep bringing that up, and I don't want people to think that I'm like okay with that. That's like, oh, it's okay. No, like I'm the kind of person where if you're new to the podcast, I wear my emotions on my sleeve, and what I'm thinking, I stand by. And I am like a staunch defender of it. And once I'm on something, it's really hard to change my, like once I truly believe in something, it is really hard to change my mind and get me to be on the other side. So, I mean, that's why with me, I would love it to where companies would be like, no, we're going to stand up for what we believe in. Think globally. Every voice matters. Like, and that's another thing to where it's like, if you're, I know we didn't talk about it, but like if you're a Blizzard employee right now and you honestly believe that the company has done you wrong, I'll ask you, Johnny, let's say you work at Blizzard and you're one of the people that walked out. You're one of the people that feel like the company is not following Think Globally, is not following their every voice matters.
Their own
Like they're it's all a facade basically. It's nice things that you say to make people think that the company is nice and shiny. Mm-hmm. How many of those employees do you think have had the thought process run through their mind of, now I know and this is this could be even a touchy subject because of all the layoffs we've seen in the gaming world, and like every time it happens, we're all like, well, we hope that the people that were laid off find jobs, and we see it every other day, like game companies and developers shrinking down, laying people off. How many Blizzard employees, and would you be one that seriously would think, I don't know if I could work here anymore? Do you think there's some employees that are starting to think that?
There might be, just because they're like that headstrong is a bad term for me to use, but for a lack of better word or terms, that are that headstrong about that, like the company's motto, basically. All those, I don't know what all the other terms are on there, but if you have if the company is supposed to follow think globally, and what was the other one?
Every voice matters.
And then all of a sudden they pull something like this, yeah, you're gonna question the company itself, especially if you were like that believed in the company. The other thing that comes to mind for me though is, I'm gonna say this. Let's say they did that, and I don't know, like I don't think we ever got the numbers for how much money Blizzard gets from China compared to the U.S. Mm-hmm. But let's say it's a decent majority amount, and China decides we're going to ban Blizzard games from coming into the country, because the government can do that.
Say that one more time. So I was reading something else, so I want to make sure I completely understand what you just said.
So what I'm saying is, yeah, I would probably start. I would be at the least questioning everything about my company. Like, they have a motto out there. They have a set of standards. They have it in the middle of the campus, and they're not following it. Yeah, and I would question the company and their moral standings at that point. Would I quit the company? I don't know if I would. But the one thing I came back down was the other thing that came to mind about that whole thing was, I don't know the numbers between the U.S. sales or the U.S. income and the China income.
Do you want to know this, though?
Yeah, go ahead.
In February, so earlier this year, Activision Blizzard reported record profits of $2.4 billion.
From China?
That's all. No, just in total.
In total,
$2.4 billion.
But let's just go with that $2.4 billion. I don't know how much of that came from China. Let's say it's a good majority amount. Let's say it's over half of that. Let's say it's over half. Let's say it's 60% of that. And the company stands up for their beliefs, and the government can just say, Blizzard, you're not allowed to sell in our country anymore. No one's allowed to play Blizzard games in our country. What happens to the company then? How many of those people that walked out because the morals weren't followed lose their job?
Yeah, and I mean, Gary Witt also mentioned this on that kind of funny
I'm not, like I
podcast
said, I'm not defending Blizzard and what their choice. I'm not defending China on what they're doing, but it's just when it comes to that, part of it, maybe they're thinking about their employees too to some degree, because we lose all that money. We lose a lot.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because Dave and I talked about, that was an earnings call in February.
Yeah.
That they did to their shareholders. And Dave and I talked about that because, yes, they announced $2.4 billion in profits. But on that same earnings call, the company announced that it fired 8% of its workforce, roughly 800 people. So, like, we were talking about that, the massive layoffs. Because Blizzard wasn't always owned by Activision. Activision came in once they bought Blizzard and basically laid those 800 people off and fired 8% of its workforce. The thing I find interesting, and I'm going to put this down below in the description as well, Vice, there's an article on Vice that I'm actually going to put in our rundown thing so that you can look at it as well, Johnny. So I'm not the only one here hoarding everything.
Yeah, you usually do that.
Go ahead and paste. There you go.
Oh, cool.
And now you can go ahead and look at it as well. They did a nice piece that I just found where they interviewed a Blizzard employee. And the headline to the article just says, "The internal silence is deafening." Blizzard employee says about China controversy. And there's a couple stuff in here that I'm like, ooh, that's interesting. Ooh, we could talk about that. But here's the one thing that I really, 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 really feel is the most interesting, because you just brought it up, is, so I'm just going to read from the article really quick. The employee said that ultimately, whether or not Blizzard stands up to China won't make a difference in the long run, because the game industry more broadly is relying on revenue from offering its products in China. Change will only matter if it happens on a scale that is bigger than just Activision Blizzard. And here's the exact comments from that employee. He said, we're damned if we don't take a stand. We'll have lost a lot of support from fans outside China. We're damned if we do. You can't keep the lights on when we lose income from China and others more hungry swoop in to take our place, the employee said. Even if I did leave, where would I go? That's not beholden to access or income from China today or tomorrow. Change can only happen if consumers across the spectrum take a hard look at what we have poured our cash into supporting, if we want to make a real difference and stop this cycle of appeasement. And it kind of brings me to this, and Gary Whitta brought this up in that Kind of Funny podcast. I don't know, and I don't believe there will be a company that ever does this, but it would be a nice change of pace if they did, where it's basically kind of like what you were saying, but on the other spectrum of it, where let's say Blizzard said, instead of banning Blitzchung, instead of all that, basically saying, you know what, China, we're taking a stand to you. Fuck it. You don't get our games anymore. And I know that people are going to say, but Ricky, what about the people out there that are not the Chinese? Like, Blizzard's not selling games to the Chinese government. They're selling games to the Chinese people. It's kind of like in my classroom. I had recently this week a class that was really bad. So what I did was have them sit in silence. And we sat in silence for 15 minutes. I don't know how I did it. But we sat there in silence for 15 minutes. And I was talking to an administrator about it. And he goes, next time I wouldn't do that, because why penalize the entire class for a few students? And that's what I feel like almost this would be. If Blizzard said, fuck it, you don't get our games anymore until basically until you come and play nice, you don't get our income. Our games are not going to stimulate your economy. I know that that's the same thing of what I just said. Why penalize some of the people that play your games in China because the government is assholes? I get that. But I feel like at some point a company is going to have to take a stand like that, right? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, like this employee says, if you do that, that might be deciding on whether you keep the lights on or you turn the lights off. Like what we've been talking about. Like, if you're going to take that stand, it is choosing morality over the money. And I don't know if a company does that, where they will stand up to a country like China, a government like China, and go, no, we're not going to stimulate your economy. We're taking our games. We're not going to sell them in your economy anymore.
I mean, I get to some degree where that idea comes from, because then it's like in your class.
Yeah.
Where you go, well, why did we all have to sit in silence? And you go, to thank these guys for that.
Yeah, I usually use the phrase of it takes one bad apple to ruin the batch. Yeah. Because that's what I am a person that I learned from the teachers that taught me. And let's say there's some bad habits in there that I've had to hash out. That may be one of them. But go on.
Yeah, no, but I mean, it's sort of like, it comes down to the idea of like, okay, well, thank your government. Mm-hmm. That's what I would feel like if Blizzard made a stand. I'm going to do some math on the podcast right now.
Go ahead.
How much did you say that they made in their...
In the February one, they
quarter.
said $2.4 billion.
That's like, what, 24...
And a lot of zeros.
2,400,000,000, right?
Yeah.
Okay, 2,400,000,000. According to this, and I don't know how correct it is, but that's what I'm going to go off right now. The Chinese tech giant Tencent owns a 5% stake in Blizzard, and the gaming company earned 12% of its revenue from the Asia Pacific region.
Okay.
So that's 12%.
So Blizzard got 12% from that region.
Times 12. Oh, yeah, I probably should put a 12 in front of that first.
Wouldn't it be 0.112 or 0.12?
Well, I can actually hit percent.
Oh, okay.
It's $2,880,000.
Oh man, a fraction of that. Like,
it's a fraction.
Now I will say to
that's
us,
a lot of money to us.
To us, it's a lot of money, but
that kind of puts
in retrospect to that $2 billion, is $2 million really a lot when you're making $2 billion?
No, I mean
when you're making 2 B's, is 2 M's really that important?
I have $10. I'll give you 12% of it.
Do that simple math on the podcast because I'm a music teacher.
Do I have to say something about that? Because
wouldn't that be like 15 cents?
I'll give you what it says 1.2.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm thinking $1. I'm thinking of $1. You said $10.
$10.
So $1.20.
Yeah, I'll give you.
Yeah,
I'm $1.20.
Yeah, I'm dumb. $1.20 of my $10. I know that's basically bringing it down very low.
Yeah, I'll give you $1.20 out of my 10.
It's just like,
but still, it's at that point. Maybe Blizzard should have made a stand. I'm not that I'm saying I'm gonna delete my account or anything, but I have a little bit less siding with Blizzard now, even when it comes to the business side, because I didn't know the numbers. Like I said, my numbers could be fudged right now because I looked one thing up online and it said 12%. Ricky's is from February, so I mean it may not even the same quarter, but just general idea. It's not a lot of money from what they made total.
You know what else is really, really disheartening too? And I mean, this goes into another thing of Blizzard in itself. This goes back to our first question, by the way, of can Blizzard bounce back? And this is going to lean me into the no category. I'm just going to read this snippet from the Vice interview that they did with the Blizzard employee. The internal silence is deafening, the Blizzard employee told Vice. Besides 2 brief I'm listening emails from our president, we've heard nothing of substance. No one is helping us process what this means for us as a company, as individuals, or as identifying a path forward. No one has been told what to say or do in the aftermath of a legal yet insupportable decision. And then it says the company's president had planned to send out a video addressing the controversy, but it was delayed. The employee said, as of the time of writing this, which was today, October 11th, was when this was posted. Maybe they wrote it on the 10th or earlier this morning. As of writing this, the video still hasn't been sent around. A second Blizzard employee confirmed they're expecting a video from the company. No one in charge I know of has spoken to the throng of employees gathered daily around the org, the Blizzard employees said. So part of me...
Praise the org.
Part of me is thinking, is this a greater thing for Blizzard of, like, poor management? Like, is the head of the snake rotten? And that's another thing, too, of, like, this isn't the first time Blizzard's been in the news this year for bad things. earlier in February, laying off 800 people. I know it's only 8% of their workforce, so like
Still.
8% small number, 800 big number. That's 800 people that literally were told, you don't have a job no more. Good luck. Man, I don't even know if good luck was in there. I hope it was, because, I mean, at this
At the
point,
very least.
I'm hoping many of them landed on their feet. I mean, at this point, February to October. But I don't know. It's another thing of Blizzard making the wrong choice. And I can't wait to see what this does for BlizzCon. I can't wait to see what this means for the future of Blizzard. Because the last thing I'll leave you guys on is this question. The moral question of myself. Now, I've said throughout the podcast that I'm a believer of every voice matters, human dignity, democracy. But I want to pose this question out to the millions and millions. I had to do that, although it's not millions. I wanted to do the rock thing. To everyone watching and listening, though, I want to pose this question out. Johnny, you get to actually answer it here on the podcast. Because I had this thought while listening about the trauma and about everything that's going on with Blizzard and the boycotts and everything. Guess what I was doing? Playing World of Warcraft Classic. And I'm sitting there listening and I'm going, I look at the game as I'm playing it and I have a thought in my mind and I go, am I an asshole for continuing to play this game? Should I put this game down? Should I be like the other people that have spoken with their wallets and said, I am not going to play this game anymore? Or am I an asshole feeding into the problem because I played World of Warcraft that night? And guess what I did today when I got home from work before I came to the podcast?
Playing World of Warcraft.
I played a little bit more of World of Warcraft Classic. What do you think? Because that's something to me where it's like, I'll be honest, I'm addicted to that game again. I'm addicted. It feels like I'm a sophomore in high school again, Johnny, of how addicted. It's not an addiction of like, yes, I'm still going to work. And yes, I'm still going to bed at a reasonable hour because, I'm an adult and I've got to do that. High school Ricky didn't quite understand that and was like, oh, I can stay up till 5 a.m. Yeah, good luck, kid. What are your thoughts on that thought process in my head and then your reaction to it? And obviously I want everyone else's as well, even if it's harsh.
English. Mm-hmm. To continue to play the game doesn't make you a bad person. Mm-hmm. If you enjoy playing the game, you enjoy playing the game.
Which I do.
And that's the thing. If it makes you feel bad to play the game every time, then you might want to think about that. But that's the thing. If you enjoy playing the game, boycotting Blizzard isn't going to fix the actual issues. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to make a dent, like a little hit at the company and say, yeah, we quit the gaming of your whole any games from your company because you didn't stand up for the right thing. And if that's what you want to protest, that's your right to protest it. Mm-hmm. That's your right to boycott it. But it doesn't make it doesn't make someone a bad person if they want to continue to play that game because they enjoy playing the game. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't fix the issue over China and Hong Kong. It doesn't fix any of the other issues that are going on. It just says, all in all, it just says that you're mad at Blizzard for their choice. And really, is that on the grander scale of everything, is that big a deal?
Here's the thing. My kind of retort to that is, I am honestly probably still going to play World of Warcraft, although there's a part of me that's like, wow, like, and yet again, other podcasters out there, you don't know, and I don't want to say people are liars, but there may be some people out there that do a podcast like us, and they go, I'm going to quit playing World of Warcraft, and then secretly they go, well, I just won't stream it. I just won't publicly broadcast that I'm still playing. But then there's others out there that are actually like, no, fuck this, I'm done. to where I was like, should I feel bad that I like you said, I don't feel bad playing the game. It's not like I play the game and it's like, oh man, why am I playing this? It's just a thought I had. It's like, am I an asshole for continuing to play this game?
No, I'm not saying that specifically for you either. I'm saying anyone out there.
Yeah.
If you don't feel bad about playing the game, unless the issue makes you feel that bad, then maybe think about stop playing the game. That's your choice.
Because it's like we mentioned this on the NBA side. I mentioned this on the NBA side for the fast break. And it kind of leads in here of like, we were talking about in the basketball side of like, if LeBron James speaks up about it, should players really speak up about the Hong Kong stuff or like show their support? And there was a part of me that was like, well, if LeBron James says anything, it's not going to fix the problem in Hong Kong. But what it will do is if enough players speak up about it, they're only going to speak up, in my sense, if they don't agree with what the NBA is doing. How the NBA is handling the situation, if you're a player and you don't like how they're handling it, then speak up, because the only way the NBA is going to change is if their employees speak up about it. And that's the same thing here. By not playing Overwatch, by not playing World of Warcraft, are you fixing the problem in Hong Kong? No. But you're telling Blizzard, I don't like what you did. I don't like what you did by banning Blitzchung, and I am speaking with my wallet. And that's the thing of like, that's just the one thing in my head, question I had. I wanted to throw out there to you guys. I can't wait to hear what people say down below, but any other things with this that you think we need to talk about, because this was a doozy of a podcast. Before I edit anything, do you want to know how long we've went pre-edit?
Hour and 10 minutes.
You went about 20 minutes too long. In about 7 seconds, we'll be at an hour.
Okay.
So I mean, we're close. We're basically at the hour mark on the recording now, which is not the hour mark on the YouTube video, because obviously there was a little bit beforehand of the pre-recording. Anything you think we left off from this doozy of a podcast? This one topic. I think
we honestly covered as much of it as we could. I'm just gonna make a small. What the hell is this? Oh, okay.
Addition or small an amendment.
Kind of. Just a recap of like a summary, to some degree.
Final thoughts and then we'll end it.
Again, I know I've said it quite a few times over the podcast, but this is a summary, so suck it.
Yeah.
Horrible travesty that's happening somewhere that honestly does it really affect us? Maybe not, but it is still a horrible travesty nonetheless. Is it bad what Blizzard did? Yeah, it is. They shouldn't. They went overboard with firing 2 people and firing two and banning 1 and taking a decent amount of money. Actually,
$10,000.
That's a decent amount of money in my book.
Hey, I'll take $10,000.
That's half my student loan, I think. A little more, a little less.
It's about 1/5 of mine, but we're not. Well, that's a discussion for another day.
Apples and oranges, my friend. Apples and oranges.
Tomato, potato.
Oh, I say potato eggplant.
Potato eggplant.
Anyways, it's all
Johnny's
just
like I lost my train of thought.
Thank you for throwing the ADD kid a curveball. I'm the captain now. Damn it! Let me get back to my thought.
Do it myself.
Stop! I'm trying to get through this.
I'm turning off my mic.
Thank you. Appreciate it. He's still gonna distract me because he's gonna say something. I'm still gonna be able to hear it. Oh yeah, sure. That's gonna last long. Anyways, terrible travesty over there. Horrible decision making by the upper heads of Blizzard. I almost just said Overwatch, which was dumb on my part.
Same thing.
And yes, you're welcome to be mad at them. You're welcome to quit your accounts and all that. Yeah, it might prove a little bit of something. I mean, if it makes you feel better to do it, go ahead and do it. If you still love playing the game, keep playing the games.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't make you a bad person just because you still love to play the game. Because that's what, at the end of the day, like I said earlier, it does not solve the bigger issues in life. It's not going to be overall that big a deal. I don't agree with what Blizzard did. I don't agree with what China is doing to Hong Kong. But I'm going to keep playing my games.
Yeah, my final thought is more so on the side of I can't wait to see what happens, because this is not over.
No.
I can't wait to see what happens at BlizzCon. I can't wait to see how, like, I almost in my head also feel like what's the next China this company to happen? Because like we mentioned, Google, Apple, NBA, Blizzard. What's the next one? What's the other thing of like, I know the NBA one's a little bit different, but like in this sense, it was a company banning a player for their support. It's almost like on the NBA side, that GM that tweeted out about it, it's almost like, do some people kind of have to think of like, hey, should I do this? Like, what's the ramifications of this going to be? Which is terrible because, I mean, it's human dignity. It's democracy. How many times do we have to say that? Like, if you're somebody that's sitting there like, yeah, fuck human dignity. Yeah, fuck you too. Because you're probably a terrible human being. But I can't wait to see where this goes from here. And I will be keeping a tab on BlizzCon to see what happens, what announcements happen, how big of a hype they get, and if this situation has affected BlizzCon and Blizzard moving forward.
I actually do have one more side note.
Go ahead.
I give kudos to Blizz Chung for taking his punishment with a grain of salt.
For knowing, like, hey, I knew something was going to happen.
Because there are other celebrities, not going to name names, but I think you know who I'm thinking of.
Okay.
That did not take it very well because they got punished for their protest.
What do you mean? I don't know who you're
talking
talking about.
Off the podcast.
Is it an off the podcast discussion?
Maybe, but if they really want to know, someone in the comments ask down below, and most likely he'll answer because I won't check.
Okay. Yeah.
To be blatantly honest.
Yeah. No,
I won't check, but we'll discuss it. And if someone really wants to know that badly,
here's the thing though that I'm concerned with.
Pay for $1 Patreon, and Ricky will tell you.
No.
I don't know.
No, we're not doing that.
I was trying.
We're not making money off this.
I mean,
which we kind of are.
We are, and we could.
Yeah,
but
that's like Sean did mention Patreon on the Fast Break one because he's like, I just feel awkward saying like, hey, support us. Oh, we're going to talk about this very sensitive topic. Here's the only question I have with it. Why is it okay to say it in the comment section but not here?
I don't know, because I don't feel like naming names right now.
Okay. Do
you really want me to just say it?
Yeah, just say it.
Kaepernick did not take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, you can fucking say Kaepernick.
I know he did. I didn't feel like it.
Okay.
He bitched about it.
His is a little different though because
I'm not the sports guy. That's why I didn't want to say it.
Yeah, his is the only thing. His is a little different with. Is he's being blackballed by the NFL?
Yeah,
by
that
the
part,
owners.
That part. But as soon as he got in trouble,
yeah,
he was bitching about it and played the victim.
Yeah, his is a little bit more of a. He's not. I'm not saying he's completely the innocent martyr, because there was even like a practice where he wore socks that had pig heads with cop hats on it.
Exactly that.
So I mean, he's not perfect, but like the whole situation with
the black ball is the part I don't agree with, but like you're done right now, and not being able to take the. Hey, you don't have a job because it's something you did.
So, and here's, just so everyone's clear, how you're relating them is, if he acted like Blitzchung, it would be like hey, am I happy I'm out of the league? No. But I knew there'd be consequences for this.
Exactly.
That's what you're trying to say.
That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
He did not take that.
Yeah.
Like I said, he did not take it with a grain of salt like Blitzchung did.
Yeah, we're
Blitzchung is like, I knew there would be consequences,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going through with them.
Here's another thing too.
Yeah.
Let's say Blizzard backtracks. Mm-hmm. And this is the last thing I'll ask. If they backtrack and they say, "We're sorry. Here's your winnings. You can come back." If you're Blitzchung, do you come back? Or do you say, "Nah, I'm good, homie. Fuck your game."
It depends on how much he likes it. Mm-hmm. If he loves the game that much, he's like, cool, I can join again.
And honestly, yet again,
He's banned
come back
for a
to the
year.
Money thing, loves making a living off
I mean,
of
he
it.
might just love the game in general, though, too.
That too.
But it's like,
Usually
you're
we
making
get into
money off
games
it like
because we
that.
fucking love them.
Exactly. But that's the thing. Is like, maybe he's the type that's like, fuck it. I'm not doing it right now.
Well, this has
Got a year
been
to think about it.
This has been a doozy of a podcast and only one topic. Usually we go this long on 3 topics, sometimes just 2 alone. This has been one topic.
Or,
make sure
one movie review.
Yeah, one movie review. Make sure to let us know what you guys think down below. Of course, this is a discussion. We just had one. Now we invite you into the discussion as well.
Yes, please.
I pitched Patreon earlier. I'm not going to pitch it here at the end. What I will do is I'll pitch us on Twitter. If you want to have a conversation with us on Twitter also, I'm at Ricky Widmer. Johnny is at War Machine 9085. And Most Valuable Podcast is at Most Valuable Pod. I want to thank you guys for whether you're on YouTube right now, you're looking at our logo because it's the end and I'm not going to get up to boop bop the camera. Beep bop to boop bop the camera to turn it back up. Wasn't going to go there, Johnny.
Hey,
That's
you
a
started
rapist.
it.
But
I'm not a raper.
he is a rapist. But
At
thank
one
you
point,
guys.
he had a weird look in his eye. At one point, he said, "Let's get it on."
Fucking Bill Cosby.
Talking about the fighting.
Let us know what you guys think down below. But as always,
it's-
have a good day, everybody.
That's right. I can't.
Yeah, you can't do that. They can't see us.
Yeah, exactly.